talking about uninsured motorists, and this is a show that we've been talking about for a long time. We're finally getting to do the show, and helping me get some of the information out tonight is Carl Reynolds. We've been talking about this forever, Carl.
Actually, as I said, it's a subject near and dear to our hearts. I would say 9 out of every 10 people we talk to will not even know what their limits of liability are or what their uninsured motorist insurance is. Everybody says, I have full coverage.
Right.
But they don't really know the specifics of what that coverage is.
Right.
Now, and the short version is that your liability insurance protects your assets. That is your home, your savings, your stocks and your bonds. That stands between you and somebody you might injure in an automobile wreck. Uninsured motorist insurance protects your person. That means if you get injured by a person driving an automobile that doesn't have insurance, then by contract, your insurer agrees to pay to you what you would otherwise have been entitled to recover from that uninsured driver.
Okay.
So that is a short explanation of what uninsured motorist insurance is, and most people don't know what they have. It is also one of the least expensive forms of protection you can get, and we encourage everybody to look at their policy, find out what they've got, know what their rights are under that, and be protected. Protect yourselves.
Yep, and we've
now,
got
to answer answer the question,
Wendell.
I've got Wendell Horne, who is an expert on the subject of uninsured motorist insurance, and I'm glad he's here because he feels as strongly about it as I do, and we're looking forward to the calls we're getting tonight.
Yep, and Wendell, relatively cheap, because I can tell you
very,
mine is $8.
very inexpensive. I mean, in fact, I would challenge all the viewers to go out right now or after the show at their earliest convenience and look at their declaration page to see what kind of coverages they got, and look at the cost of them. You'll see that liability coverage and collision comprehensive that protects your car is going to be probably 75% or 80% of your premium. Uninsured motorist coverage is going to be very minimal in cost.
And it's not like the comprehensive, Carl, because people say, oh, my car is so old, I don't have to have comprehensive. Uninsured motorist doesn't operate like that.
No.
I don't care.
It's just like liability.
Right.
I mean, you have to have liability. You don't have to have UM.
Right.
But you should have at least as much uninsured motorist insurance as you do liability.
Okay.
Now, in Georgia, it's $25.50, which means $25,000 per person or $50,000 per accident in the aggregate on your liability coverage. Now, what most people do is they get the same amount of coverage for their uninsured motorist insurance. But really, everybody should have at least $100, $300 on both.
Okay.
Right.
And there are good reasons for it.
In fact, under the law, you can only take up to the amount of liability coverage that you have. You cannot take, $100,000 in uninsured motorist if you only got $25,000 in liability.
Gotcha.
And another important factor is the difference. There are two types of uninsured motorist coverage. You've got the traditional type, which was in effect, that was the law before, I think it was 2009 or 2010, and then the law was changed, and it allows you to take uninsured motorist excess.
Okay.
And what that means is on excess coverage, you look at the liability coverage of the other driver, and if you have uninsured motorist excess, then you add your uninsured motorist on top of the liability coverage of the other driver.
So is that stacked?
It stacks on top of it.
Okay.
If you got the traditional type, then your insurance company gets an offset of whatever amount of insurance that the liability carrier has on the driver that caused the wreck. For instance, if you had an accident and the other driver had $50,000 in uninsured in liability coverage, and you had 25 or 50 traditional, then there's going to be an offset against that, and you would end up not having your uninsured motorist come into play.
Gotcha.
So,
okay.
To make it simple, if you're in a wreck and you have the traditional coverage, and the other driver has $25,000 in liability, and you've got $25,000 in UM, then you get nothing by way of your UM. Your UM, if the other driver had $50,000 in coverage and you had $25,000 in UM, you get no benefit.
Okay.
If on the other hand you have the add-on and the at-fault driver has 25 liability and you have 25 uninsured motorist, you add that on top of his 25 liability coverage, so you have available $50,000 from which to recover.
Gotcha.
Or if it were 25 from him and 50 from you, you would add your 50 on top of his, and you would have $75,000 from which you could recover compensation for whatever your. That doesn't mean your injuries are worth that much.
Right.
It just means that you have that much available for you.
Okay.
And the bottom line is, all the viewers should take uninsured motorist add-on or excess. That's the best value.
Okay.
And the insurance companies, I don't know if they still do, they were sending a form out to sign off on which you wanted, and some of the notifications they sent made it appear as if it was just costing you more money to get the add-on.
Okay.
And so a lot of people, through ignorance, just didn't do that.
Okay.